Welcome to the Last Economy podcast, a guide to the age of intelligent economics.
And welcome back. We are continuing our deep dive into the sources, the ideas that describe this huge transformation happening in global economics right now.
That's right. Our last deep dive looked at the intelligence inversion.
Yeah.
How the basics of labor and value are fundamentally changing. Scary stuff, really.
Definitely. And today we're digging into the evidence, the proof, really, of just how unstable the system has become.
We're opening chapter 2 of the book. It's called Harbingers of the Storm.
And this chapter, look, it's so important for you listening because it tackles that feeling, that vague sense of unease, maybe anxiety we all seem to have about where things are headed.
Yeah, the feeling that the economy's just broken somehow.
Exactly. And this chapter argues that feeling isn't just, in your head. It's not just anxiety. It's actually your intuition, picking up on real measurable signals. It's science.
So our mission today is to move past that vague feeling. We want to give you the actual vocabulary, the scientific terms, to describe what's happening.
Because the big idea here isn't that we're in just another recession or downturn. No, the argument is much bigger. It's that the economy is nearing a kind of physical phase transition.
Like water boiling.
Precisely like water boiling. Or, an earthquake fault about to slip. The signals that show up right before these events, they're universal, measurable, predictable. And this chapter argues they're showing up in our economy right now.
Okay, so we're taking that gut feeling of wrongness and giving it a name, or rather, 4 names.
4 names, yeah, based on the physics of complex systems. And once you can name the pattern, see it clearly, well, then you can stop just feeling anxious and start thinking strategically.
All right, let's get into it. Where does the chapter start?
It kicks off with a really powerful historical comparison to show why we even need this new language. It takes us back almost 100 years.
To the big one, 1929, right before the crash.
Exactly. And it's a brilliant analogy because it shows what happens when a system is clearly, visibly failing. But the people in charge, the establishment, they just don't have the words or maybe the willingness to admit the whole structure is broken.
So paint the picture for us.
Yeah.
October 1929.
Right. Thursday, October 24th, the market's tanking, it's free-falling, panic is setting in everywhere, confidence evaporating.
Okay.
And then, this moment of high drama, Richard Whitney, he's the acting VP of the New York Stock Exchange, he walks onto the trading floor, very theatrical. He's representing the big banks, JP Morgan, the whole consortium.
And what does he do?
He starts making bids, but not just any bids, loud bids. Ostentatiously high bids for major stocks, U.S. Steel, Anaconda Copper, stuff like that.
So it wasn't about the actual value of the stock.
Not at all. It was pure theater, a performance, really, designed to stop the panic, to project confidence. Look, the big money still believes that was the message.
And did it work?
For a moment, yeah. The market rallied. The newspapers cheered. Pundits started talking about permanent prosperity again. See, the system is fundamentally sound.
Uh-oh. I sense a but coming.
A big but. That permanent prosperity, it lasted exactly 5 days.
5 days, wow.
Then came Black Tuesday. The market drops 12% in 1 day. And that wasn't even the bottom. It was the start of this long, grinding collapse. By 1932, the market was down, 89%?
89%. Devastating. And Whitney, the hero of the hour.
Oh, the irony is thick. He later ended up in Sing Sing prison for embezzlement, misappropriating funds, the supposed savior.
So the lesson the book draws from this
is that sometimes the belief in stability is just a performance. A lie told to try and hold off the inevitable collapse. And this sets up the first really key quote from the chapter, because the author argues we usually miss the real point of 1929.
Okay, let's hear it. Quote number 1.
Quote 1. The history books miss the most important lesson of that moment. Everyone saw the crash coming. They saw the signs, the harbingers of the storm, but they lacked the language to name them.
They lack the language to name them. That really jumps out.
That's the absolute core of it. Think about 1929. People saw the problems, the crazy speculation, the debt piled on debt, the leverage. They felt it was wrong, deeply wrong.
But the official economic language they had?
It was all classical economics, terms like, equilibrium, market corrections, cyclical adjustments. It assumed the system basically worked and would always self-correct.
The whole efficient market idea, right?
Yeah.
The prices are always basically right.
Exactly. So their models, their theories, they had no way to describe a total system failure, a nonlinear breakdown. They couldn't talk about a situation where confidence itself was the only thing holding it all together.
It's like trying to describe a hurricane using only words for gentle rain.
That's a great analogy. Yeah. Their toolkit just wasn't equipped for the storm that was right in front of them.
So, connecting that to today, the argument is we're in a similar boat.
Very similar. We feel that anxiety. We see the official numbers. GDP looks okay sometimes. The stock market hits highs, but our lived experience for so many people, stagnant wages, crushing debt, just feeling insecure, it doesn't match the official story.
There's a disconnect.
A huge disconnect. And that's why we need this new vocabulary from physics, from complex system science, to turn that vague feeling, that intuition, into actual pattern recognition.
So we can say, that's what I'm seeing. That's not just weirdness, that's Harbinger X.
Precisely. It's moving beyond just feeling worried. It's about recognizing these universal physical laws playing out right now in our economy, seeing the matrix, so to speak.
Okay, so the foundation is laid, we need a new language. And the power of this chapter, you're saying, is that it finds this language in physics, not economics or politics.
Exactly. It grounds the whole argument in the science of complex systems, specifically the physics of tipping points.
Right, you mentioned things like water boiling or earthquakes.
Yeah, and there's this concept called the devil's staircase from complexity science. Imagine a system could be an ecosystem, the climate, tectonic plates, whatever, approaching a critical point, a big change.
Okay.
It usually doesn't just slide smoothly into disaster. It moves and fits and starts. It'll seem stable for a while on a kind of plateau, but underneath, stress is building up.
Right.
Then, suddenly, it shifts, maybe dramatically, to a new plateau. Then it holds again, builds more stress, then shifts again. Step, plateau, like a staircase, until the final big change or collapse.
The devil's staircase. Why devils?
I think because those plateaus are deceptive, right? They look like stability, but they're just pauses before the next drop. The system wants to stay put because of inertia, institutions, whatever, but the pressure keeps building.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does this apply to the economy?
Well, the really mind-bending idea here is that the same analytical tools, the same math used to predict when a fault line might slip or when a forest is primed to burn, those tools can be applied to our economy.
Seriously, the same math.
That's the argument. It suggests these warning signs, these harbingers, aren't just economic trends. They're reflections of fundamental, universal physical laws governing complex systems.
Wow. Okay, that leads us to the second quote then.
It does. This quote really sets up the scientific framework for the whole chapter.
Let's hear it. Quote 2.
Quote 2. An economy, like water about to boil, a forest about to catch fire, or tectonic plates about to slip, displays specific, measurable behaviors as it approaches a phase transition.
Okay, so it's stating clearly, look for the precursors. Just like you see bubbles before water boils.
Precisely. The economy, as it gets closer to its own boiling point, must exhibit certain behaviors. Predictable ones, universal ones. We just need to know what to look for.
But wait, if we see those plateaus on the devil's staircase, those moments like when Richard Whitney calmed the market, how do we know that isn't real stability returning?
Yeah.
Maybe the system did fix itself.
Good question. The physics perspective helps here. Real, true stability in a complex system is defined by resilience, by the ability to absorb shocks and bounce back on its own. Okay, those plateaus, those Whitney moments, they're often artificial. They require huge amounts of energy just to maintain the illusion of the old state. Think about it. Massive government spending, central bank interventions, constant narrative management.
You're spending energy just to stand still, basically.
Exactly. The closer you get to the tipping point, the more energy it takes just to prevent the system from changing state. That's a key sign you're not in a stable equilibrium. You're on an unstable plateau, cropped up.
Got it. So this framework tells us what to look for. The 4 specific behaviors.
The harbingers.
The 4 harbingers. Universal signs that the system is at criticality. Ready to dive into the first one?
Let's do it.
Okay, harbinger number 1. Critical slowing down. CSD. This one's maybe the easiest to grasp intuitively.
Slowing down. It's like the economy gets sluggish, takes longer to recover from bumps.
That's exactly it. CSD is a direct measure of lost resilience. Think of a healthy system, like a healthy person. They get a small shock, maybe catch a cold, they feel rough for a day or two, then bounce right back.
Right. But as a system, any complex system gets closer to a critical point, its recovery time stretches out dramatically. A shock that used to cause a little wobble now causes a major stagger. The bounce back takes way, way longer.
And the book points to a huge real-world example of this.
Oh, yeah. The global financial crisis of 2008 and its aftermath. It's presented as the textbook case of CSD in action over the last, well, 15 years now.
So 2008 was the massive shock, the big
A
push.
huge shock. Now, in previous recessions, even bad ones, you'd usually see the economy find its footing again within, say, 2 to 4 years. You'd often get that V-shaped recovery people talk about.
But after 2008,
It was completely different. Central banks threw everything at it, right? Interest rates slashed to zero, quantitative easing, printing money, basically buying up toxic assets. Unprecedented intervention.
and the recovery?
Painfully slow, glacial. It took a full decade just to get GDP back to where it might have been based on pre-crisis trends. A whole decade to achieve what previous recoveries did in maybe a couple of years.
The system just couldn't bounce back on its own.
It lost its reflex, its self-healing ability. And the book makes the point that the entire period since 2008, roughly, has been essentially, quote, 15 years of monetary life support.
Life support, not recovery.
That's the crucial distinction. This is the smoking gun for CSD. The economy wasn't resilient. It became dependent on continuous, massive outside help. And we saw it again, even more dramatically, with the response to the COVID shock in 2020.
So the constant interventions weren't really fixing the underlying problem. They were just keeping the patient alive.
Exactly. We mistook preventing an immediate catastrophic collapse for actual, robust health. But the slowness of the recovery, despite all that help, that was the CSD signal flashing red.
But hang on, the central bankers, the policymakers, they track all this data. Why didn't they say, hey, we're seeing critical slowing down here? Why was the story always recovery's coming?
Well, partly it's that Richard Whitney problem again, right? Admitting the system is fundamentally broken, that it's lost its resilience, is terrifying. It could trigger the very collapse you're trying to prevent.
The narrative management thing?
Yeah. But there's another layer the book points out. CSD is often made worse by the very attempts to fix the system using the old tools. Specifically, it talks about zombie companies.
Zombie companies. Sounds ominous.
It is. These are companies that are basically bankrupt. They're so loaded with debt, they can't even afford to pay the interest on their loans from their actual profits.
So how do they survive?
Because interest rates have been kept near zero for so long, they can just keep rolling over their debt, borrowing more cheap money to pay off the old cheap money. They're kept alive purely by the artificial life support of central bank policy.
So these zombie companies are dragging the whole system down.
Precisely. In a healthy market, they'd fail. That's creative destruction resources get reallocated to more productive uses. But by keeping them alive, we block that natural process.
We prevent the healing.
Exactly. These zombies suck up capital, labor, resources. They're dead weight. And propping them up for 15 years, that guarantees the system can't bounce back quickly, it stays staggered, it requires endless life support. That is the very definition of critical slowing down.
Okay, so the system slows down overall, takes ages to recover. That's CSD. What's Harbinger number 2?
Harbinger 2 is variance explosion, VE. If CSD is about the system getting sluggish, VE is about it getting erratic, wild, losing control.
Like its internal thermostat is broken, swinging from freezing to boiling.
That's a perfect analogy, yeah. VE means the system's equilibrium mechanism is shot. Tiny inputs, things that shouldn't matter much, suddenly cause huge, disproportionate reactions. The system just oscillates violently.
So not just slow, but also unpredictable.
Wildly unpredictable. The book actually calls it the economic equivalent of a manic depressive episode. You see it in markets, right? One day the market surges 3% on some minor news hint. The next day it plunges 4% on basically the same news, just spun differently. Wild swings.
And the example the book uses for this is, well, it's pretty memorable.
Oh, the meme stock frenzy of 2021. It's almost too perfect an example, isn't it? Hilarious if it weren't so indicative of system failure.
Remind us, GameStop.
Yeah, GameStop. A struggling video game retailer, mostly physical stores and malls, right? Not exactly the future of tech. But its stock price went from what, $17 to over $400 in a few weeks.
Just an insane jump. And it wasn't because they suddenly invented cold fusion or something?
Not even close. It had zero to do with their business fundamentals. It happened because a bunch of people on a Reddit forum, Wall Street Bets, decided it would be fun and maybe profitable to coordinate buying the stock to punish hedge funds who were betting against it. A short squeeze, driven by memes and online chatter.
So a failing company's stock goes to the moon because of an internet joke. What does that tell us about the wider economy?
The book frames it in terms of thermodynamics, actually. Excess energy in the system.
Energy, like money.
Exactly. Think about all the trillions pumped into the system post-2008, and then again, massively during COVID.
Oh.
All that stimulus, all that QE, It created this enormous pool of money, of liquidity sloshing around.
Okay.
Now, in a healthy economy, that money finds productive places to go, investing in new businesses, innovation, infrastructure. But if there aren't enough good, productive opportunities,
Money has to go somewhere.
it has to go somewhere. It doesn't just
Mm.
vanish. And the book says it starts to dissipate in increasingly absurd ways,
Yeah.
like pouring into a joke stock. The energy had no healthy outlet, so it erupted as just pure speculative volatility, chaos.
So GameStop was like a pressure valve releasing excess unproductive energy.
A very visible, very strange pressure valve.
Yeah.
But it's not just meme stocks. VE leads to what the book calls the everything bubble.
The everything bubble, meaning it's not just one sector.
Right. It's not like the dot-com bubble, just tech stocks, or the 2007 housing bubble, just real estate.
Right.
Now you see it everywhere simultaneously. Well, insane prices for modern art, collectible sneakers, cryptocurrencies, obviously, but also traditional stocks hitting highs even when the economy feels shaky. Bond prices acting weirdly. Even housing in some areas seems totally disconnected from local wages or reality.
So prices are just unmoored, floating free from actual value.
That's the essence of VE. When asset prices react more violently to rumors, to shifts in central bank whispers, to algorithms trading algorithms than they do to actual company earnings or economic output or supply and demand, that's variance explosion.
It means the whole idea of markets efficiently finding the right price is just gone.
Completely gone. Replaced by maybe the highly erratic market hypothesis. The system's internal compass is broken. It's swinging wildly. That's VE.
Okay, so we have slowness, CSD, and wild swings, VE. What's Harbinger number 3?
Number 3 is flickering between states, FBS. This one's maybe a bit more abstract, but it's really fundamental. It's when the basic categories we use to understand the system start to, well, flicker. They lose their clear, stable meaning.
Flickering, like a light bulb about to go out.
Kind of. The book uses the analogy of water right at 0 degrees Celsius, the freezing point.
Okay.
At that precise point, is it liquid water or solid ice? It's kind of both and neither, right? You can see tiny ice crystals forming and melting, coexisting with the liquid. It's flickering between the solid and liquid states. That flickering is the signature of a system at a tipping point.
And we're seeing this flickering in basic economic categories now. Like,
Yeah.
the system itself is at 0 degrees.
That's the argument.
Yeah.
And the first big example the book gives is something we see every day. The structure of work itself. The gig economy.
Like Uber drivers, DoorDash delivery people.
Yeah.
That whole debate.
Exactly. For years now, we've been arguing, is an Uber driver an employee? Should they get minimum wage, benefits, legal protections, or are they an independent contractor, their own boss, taking risks but having flexibility?
And the answer seems to change depending on where you live or which court is ruling.
Precisely. After all this time, all the lawsuits, all the regulations, all the ballot measures, there's still no stable answer. They exist in this weird kind of limbo, this purgatory, as the book puts it, sometimes treated like employees, sometimes like contractors. They're flickering between these two established states.
So the very definition of employee or worker is becoming unstable.
It's fractured. The old categories don't cleanly apply anymore. And the book argues this isn't just a minor regulatory issue to be ironed out. It's a sign of deep structural instability. The fundamental social contract around work is flickering.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And the book mentions another, maybe even more critical category that's flickering.
Money itself?
Money. How is money flickering?
Well, think about digital assets. Cryptocurrencies. Let's take the most famous one, Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin? Is it a currency, something you use to buy coffee? Not really, for most people. Is it a commodity, like digital gold, something you hold on to as a store of value, an inflation hedge, some people say so? Or is it just a purely speculative asset, something you gamble on, hoping the price goes up?
It seems to be all of those things, depending on who you ask or what day it is.
Exactly. Its identity flickers constantly. It shifts based on the narrative of the day, the latest tweet from an influencer, the regulatory winds, market sentiment. There's no stable consensus on what it is.
And when the very definition of money, the medium of exchange and value, becomes unstable.
That's a very profound flicker. It signals that the entire monetary system, the paradigm we operate under, is becoming unstable. It's like the financial system is hitting 0 degrees Celsius. The old state, traditional currency, and a potential new state, digital assets, whatever they become, are coexisting uneasily, flickering back and forth. That's FBS.
Right. CSD, VE, FBS. That brings us to the fourth and final harbinger. What is it?
The last one is correlation length explosion. CLE. And this one,
That's all.
This one really hits home, I think, for that feeling of global fragility, that anxiety we started with.
Correlation length explosion. Sounds complicated.
The concept is actually pretty straightforward. In a healthy, stable, maybe more decentralized system, things that happen locally tend to stay local.
Yeah.
A small factory fire in one town doesn't usually cause problems halfway across the world.
Right. The impact is contained.
Exactly. The correlation length, basically how far the ripples of a disturbance spread, is short. But as a system gets pushed closer and closer to a critical point, something changes. Everything starts to become connected to everything else.
Like a domino effect.
A massive global domino effect. The system gets optimized for hyper-efficiency, which usually means getting rid of buffers, redundancy, slack.
Just-in-time everything.
Just-in-time everything.
Right.
And the side effect is that the correlation length explodes. It approaches infinity, theoretically. A small problem anywhere can suddenly cascade everywhere, instantly.
And the example the book uses for this is unforgettable. That ship.
The Ever Given. The container ship stuck sideways in the Suez Canal back in March 2021.
Just one ship stuck for less than a week.
6 days. And it's a physical object, right? A traffic jam, basically. Logically, it should have been a localized problem for shipping companies. Annoying, yes, but contained.
But it wasn't contained at all, was it?
Not even slightly. The effects went global almost immediately. You had car factories in Germany shutting down because they couldn't get specific parts that were stuck on ships behind the Ever Given.
I remember hearing about furniture shortages in the U.S. because stuff was stuck.
Exactly. Lumber prices, consumer goods prices, everything spiked. All because one ship got wedged in one canal for 6 days. It stopped something like 12% of global trade.
How is that even possible?
Because, as the book explains, the entire global economy has spent the last few decades being ruthlessly optimized for that just-in-time efficiency. We squeezed out every buffer, every backup inventory, every bit of slack, all to minimize costs.
We made the system incredibly efficient, but also incredibly brittle.
Catastrophically brittle.
Yeah.
That's the trade-off. We eliminated redundancy, and in doing so, we stretched the correlation length across the entire planet. A single point of failure now triggers global consequences.
So a tiny disturbance causes the whole system to shudder.
A total global shudder. And that leads to the really chilling conclusion the book draws from CLE. Quote, there are no local problems anymore.
Wow. No local problems anymore.
That extreme interconnectedness, that hypersensitivity to small shocks, that's the physical proof of CLE. It shows the global system is operating right at the edge, at criticality.
Okay, let's just take a breath and pull these four together. We've got critical shut, slowing down, the system can't heal itself.
Right.
Variance explosion, it reacts wildly, erratically.
Mm-hmm.
Flickering between states, basic definitions like work and money are breaking down.
Yeah.
And correlation length explosion, tiny local issues instantly become global crises.
That's the four. And the crucial point, the synthesis here, is that these aren't just four separate, weird things happening.
They're connected.
They are four different ways of measuring the same underlying reality. They are independent scientific indicators, all pointing to the same conclusion. The complex system of the global economy has reached a critical state. It's poised for a phase transition. The physics is clear.
If it's that clear, if the physics is, as you say, screaming, why aren't the leaders, the central bankers, the CEOs shouting it from the rooftops? Why are we still hearing about soft landings and getting back to normal?
Well, think back to Richard Whitney again. They're caught in a bind, aren't they?
How so?
If they come out and say, folks, the physics shows the system is critical, a phase transition is coming, what happens next?
Panic, markets crash. The very act of saying it makes it happen.
It could. It's a potential self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Right.
Based on confidence evaporating.
Yep.
So they can't use this language publicly. They have to manage the narrative, try to keep things calm, try to hold on to that unstable plateau on the devil's staircase.
So they speak in code instead.
That's exactly what the book suggests. When you hear financial leaders or policymakers talking about increased uncertainty or market volatility or facing economic headwinds,
That's the code.
it's often the code. The translation, according to this perspective, is something like, the system is showing clear, universal signs of criticality. We're seeing CSD, VE, FBS, CLE, and frankly, our old tools aren't working to fundamentally fix it anymore. They're trying to manage expectations without triggering the very transition they fear.
Wow. Okay. That really changes how you listen to those official statements. And this brings us to the final quote.
The third and final quote. And this one ties all the physics, all the market analysis, right back to that feeling we started with, that personal sense of unease that you, the listener, might be experiencing.
Okay, let's hear quote 3.
Quote 3. If you have been feeling that something is fundamentally wrong with the world but could not articulate what, now you can. It is not anxiety. It is pattern recognition. Your brain is processing these harbingers even if you lack the vocabulary. That feeling of deep systemic wrongness. That is your limbic system screaming that the water is about to boil.
It is not anxiety. It is pattern recognition. That's powerful.
It reframes everything, doesn't it? That nagging feeling, that background hum of wrongness, the sense that things are just off, fragile, not working right. The book is saying that's not you being neurotic or pessimistic.
It's my brain processing the data, even subconsciously.
It's your oldest, most basic survival systems. Your limbic system picking up the signals. It's processing the CSD, the VE, the FBS, the CLE, even if you don't know those terms. It's recognizing the pattern of a system nearing a tipping point. Your intuition is detecting physical law in action.
My gut feeling is actually...
Your gut feeling is physics in this context. The intuition is accurate. And the book is very clear. The water is about to boil. The data from the Harbingers confirms it. The phase transition itself, it's inevitable at this point. Criticality has been reached.
Okay, if the transition is inevitable, then what's the point of knowing all this? Does it just make us more anxious, knowing the crash is coming?
Well, that's the key strategic insight, I think. Knowing this isn't just about bracing for impact. It's about understanding that a phase transition is a transformation, not necessarily an apocalypse.
Like the water becoming steam.
Exactly. Water boiling isn't the end of water, it's the beginning of steam. Steam has totally different properties, different possibilities. It can power engines, do things liquid water can't. The economy isn't going to just vanish. It's going to change state, transform into something new, operating under different rules.
Rules we don't know yet.
Rules that are being formed right now. So the real question this chapter leaves us with isn't if the transition happens, but what kind of new state do we transition to? Can we influence that? Can we build something more resilient, more equitable, more genuinely productive on the other side?
So understanding the harbingers gives us agency to shape the future state.
That's the hope. Recognizing the physics at play moves us from being passive victims of anxiety to potentially active participants in navigating the transformation. That's the power this vocabulary offers. Hashtag outro.
Okay, that is a lot to process. A really fundamental reframing of the economic situation based on physics. Let's try and boil it down. Can we recap the core argument of this chapter, Harbingers of the Storm, in just one powerful sentence?
Let's see, how about the current global economy is displaying 4 universal signs of a complex system at a critical phase transition, proving that the instability we feel is not mere anxiety, but a measurable, inescapable physical reality.
That nails it. Okay, for you listening, let's quickly list the key takeaways, the 4 harbingers you can now spot as pattern recognition.
First, the historical lesson. Remember 1929. Our current situation echoes that time people sense the deep wrongness, but lack the right scientific language to describe the systemic breakdown that's already happening.
Second, critical slowing down, CSD. Watch for the loss of resilience. The economy takes longer and longer to recover from shocks, needing constant, massive life support, like we saw post-2008, which keeps unproductive zombie companies afloat and drags everything down.
Third, variance explosion, VE. Notice the wild, erratic swings. Small news causes huge market reactions. Asset prices from meme stocks to housing to crypto become totally disconnected from fundamentals, creating a dangerous everything bubble.
Fourth, flickering between states, FBS. Look for the breakdown of basic categories. Is someone an employee or not in the gig economy? Is Bitcoin money or something else? When these core concepts become unstable and flicker, the system's foundations are cracking.
And finally, fifth, correlation length explosion, CLE. Recognize that hyper-efficiency has made us hyper-fragile. Thanks to things like just-in-time, a single local problem, like one stuck ship in the Suez Canal, now instantly causes global crises. There are truly no local problems anymore.
So those are the harbingers telling us the current system is reaching its limit, that a transition is unavoidable. Where does that leave us? Well, the next step has to be understanding why we're so stuck in the old ways of thinking, even as the evidence mounts.
Right, and that leads directly into Chapter 3 of the book, which has a pretty provocative title, The 7 Fatal Lies of a Dying Paradigm.
7 Fatal Lies. Okay. What's the gist?
The core argument is that our entire economic system, everything we're taught, is built on foundational assumptions lies. The book calls them that might have been true once, but are now the exact opposite of reality in this new age of intelligent machines and interconnected systems.
Lies like.
Oh, things like scarcity is fundamental, or human labor will always be valuable, or growth is always good. The book argues these are now dangerous falsehoods holding us back.
So to build something new, we first have to demolish the old beliefs.
That's the idea. Before we can navigate the transition effectively, we have to systematically shatter these core economic myths that we still cling to. It's about clearing the intellectual rubble.
Sounds like essential, if uncomfortable, work. We will definitely need to dive deep into those 7 fatal lies next time.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Harbingers of the Storm.